right, let's get started. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome to Pathfinder. This is session 3. And if you were, here we go. And if you were with us earlier in the session just prior to this, what you just saw was an awesome example of the model that we've developed for these virtual conferences, whereby we're not just bringing a representative from the school to share this information with you, all right? But wherever possible, we have them invite a guest panelist from either a company, an external agency, a client corporation, someone who can share a different perspective on the topic to make it that much more intriguing and meaningful. And we're going to do it again, okay? I guarantee that everybody listening to my voice understands the importance of ensuring productive partnerships with community and career-centered agencies. You have to, all right? Particularly given our circumstance. This pandemic has made this that much more challenging for a long list of reasons. Some of those we'll hear shortly. But this session, all right, will provide you with a model that's been developed and used by the Rivers East Workforce Development Region through a partnership between the Transitional Studies Department of Pitt Community College and the NENC Career Pathways Group. All right, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to introduce Lori Weston from Pitt Community College and Brandy Bragg from NENC Career Pathways Partnership. Now, I want you guys to feel free to use that Q&A window. If you move your cursor to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A window available to you. There's also a chat window at the bottom of your screen. You can submit your questions at any point in time, okay? We'll keep track of all of the questions as they come in, and we're going to save some time at the end of their discussion, at the end of their presentation, to make sure that you get your questions answered, okay? So with that, once again, my name is Ed Harper. It is my pleasure to introduce Lori Weston from Pitt Community College, who will take charge of this, and she will introduce her guest as well. So Lori, all yours.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here this afternoon. I want to introduce Brandy Bragg to you and tell you one of the neat things about our relationship is it is a result of networking. So we're going to talk to you today about a model that we developed a few years ago to get our networking more productive and constructive. I think you're going to enjoy our conversation today. We're going to ask you to hold your questions till the end and looking forward to any questions you might have. One of the things I do want to share with you as we begin this discussion is that if you are like we are in the Transitional Studies Department at Pitt Community College, we are seeing shrinking funds but greater need, and we have stretched our resources and stretched our personnel and stretched our time as far as we can. And what we've learned is there are quite a few other agencies out there that serve very similar or the same populations. And when we partner and collaborate, we find that we can get those funds and those resources, that time, that effort to reach a lot more people and be a lot more efficient. So I'm excited to share this conversation with you today with Brandy Bragg from Northeast North Carolina Career Pathways.
Thank you. Oops. There we go. So Laurie and I sort of did this research backwards. We started with the networking and the building of collaboration before we looked at what the research said. So when we did go back and find the research, we were very happy to see that we had been on the right track. So what we have here is from Susan Royce, and it's the 5 levels of collaboration. And you'll see that networking is really where it all begins. Networking is the foundation for true collaboration. And as it goes up the pyramid, you go through the cooperation, coordination, and coalition before you get to collaboration. In each of those areas, there are some differences. The main difference being that with networking, you're just meeting with people. You're not really making decisions together yet. You're just kind of getting to know one another. But as you move up this pyramid, you get to the point where by the time you get to collaboration, you're having a consensus on reached decisions. You're actually able to share in the partnership and make the decisions together. And that's the point that we're at now, but we haven't always been there. I also wanted to share with you guys this great quote that I found about building collaborative communities from Scott London, who did an essay. Collaborative efforts tend to be loosely structured, highly adaptive, and inherently creative. By creating spaces where connections are made, ideas are cross-fertilized, and collective knowledge is developed, collaborative teams generate rich opportunities for innovation. When the right people are brought together in constructive ways and with the appropriate information, they are able to create powerful visions and robust strategies for change. And that's what we're going to share with you guys today.
So what we want to do is talk to you about the 5 objectives that we came up with to develop our networking model. And what I think is really important about this model is that you see that they are interconnected, they overlap. It's not a sequential process. We're not going to share a process with you today. We're sharing with you how all of these objectives overlapped, and by reaching one, we were able to meet other needs and other objectives. So I hope that this is going to be clear, but when we explain it to you, we're doing one at a time. I just want you to know that they're not in any particular order. They're not, one does not lead to the other. They're all necessary, and they all contribute to the effectiveness of each other.
Absolutely. So the first one that we're going to start giving you some examples of is a reduction in duplicated efforts. So in our region, the Career Pathways Partnership is a group of people from K-12, from higher education, from workforce, community agencies, industry, from across our 20-county region. And reduction of duplicated services is something that we recognized while doing this work. We had many people sitting at the table who were serving the same populations and who were paying for the same things over and over, sometimes for the same people. And so one of the ways that we thought about that we could work together was actually reducing that, so that one group could do this with their money and another group can do something else, which just helps push that person that we're helping along a little further.
So when we started planning our collaborative efforts, we started looking at what was available and what kinds of efforts were already being done in our community, and found ways to jump in. We worked on a Career Pathways project, and as a result of that, and that's how I met Brandy, and as a result of the Career Pathways project for health careers, we made connections with one of the largest employers in our region, which is Vidant Hospital, and met one of the representatives from Vidant who was looking for ways to serve the community and serve the workforce needs within Vidant Hospital. And as a result of that, we got connected and found out that we could provide education. I'm the Transitional Studies program at Pitt Community College is a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funded adult literacy program, which means that we provide adult literacy in the context of workforce development, and we're free. So we were working with Vidant. Vidant was realizing that they were spending a lot of money to educate their employees so that they could move up the ladder and take post-secondary training, that kind of thing. And they were paying for it when they could have actually been with us without having to pay for it. So we actually got connected, have had many, many meetings. We're working on several projects now where employees of Vidant Hospital can take courses with us free, work towards a high school equivalency diploma, work towards a higher level of literacy, and continue in education and continue working on moving up the ladder to earn more money. One of the neat things that was an outcome of this is that Vidant was able to say, well, you know, we've been requiring a high school diploma for our lowest level employees, and now we can hire them without a high school diploma, help them get their diploma, actually pay them to get their diploma, and continue helping them on that pathway to higher pay and more responsibility and better training. So we're really excited about that effort, and that's just one of the ways that we were able to make that connection. And it started out from that networking when we were working on our career pathway.
And one of the really awesome things about this particular partnership is that Vidant actually covers most of the Northeast here in North Carolina. And so once that all gets kind of settled in the main area in Greenville, we'll be able to push that program out into these other regions as well, so other people will be able to benefit from it. So the next objective we want to share with you guys is sharing knowledge from each other's resources and services. And we do encourage our partners to look at national and statewide resources like AuntBertha.com or NC211, but there's really nothing like getting that local connection, that local knowledge.
So what we did, because we were a WIOA program, we decided to just reach out to partners in our area that served similar populations and ask them, will you join us for a small group? We started out with just 10 people. We have over 70 now on our advisory board, and that's because as we continue to meet, we would share with each other ideas and information that we wanted to learn about. And so we would reach out to other agencies in our area that provided those services and have them come in and present, and then they joined our group. One of the neatest things about this is we decided when we first started this group that we would meet monthly, not putting pressure on anyone to have to meet every meeting, but having that flexibility so that we were continuous and it wasn't new. Once we got into a rhythm, it made all the difference in the world for the effectiveness, for the collaboration, for the sharing. So we did this within the college community with our movers and shakers group, and then we did it within our community at large with our WIOA group. One of the nice things about this is we've been able to transfer this to online, and we actually have more participation because people are not having to get in their car and drive to a location. So we're very excited about the effectiveness of establishing these small groups.
Absolutely. It's a great way to share the knowledge that we have.
So because we were looking for a way to find out more about transportation assistance in our county, I reached out to the director of the Pitt Area Transit system, and asked him if he would come and present. So he came and gave us information about what's available, what kinds of services, who qualified for services, and we learned quite a bit about the transportation assistance program. As a result of that, I asked him to join our group, which he did, and we're good friends now. We stay connected and stay in contact with each other and are constantly trying to find ways to help individuals. But one day he called me out of the blue after he had done his presentation and said, Laurie, do you serve disabled adults? Well, yes, I do. And as a result of that, we qualified and applied for the Elderly and Disabled Assistance Elderly and Disabled Adult Transportation Assistance Program, which provided us a service for our students to be able to get to class. And these are adults with a variety of disabilities. They just had to have a disability in order to qualify for the program. And that just made a huge difference for attendance, for getting those students where they needed to be. So we're really excited about that partnership. Another partnership was with the Biotech Network, which is works within Pitt County and with Pitt Community College. Our students were interested in finding out what kinds of jobs are available in that field, and so they provided a field trip and demonstrations for us. And this is a direct result of having that monthly meeting, of interacting on a regular basis, getting to know one another and getting to know what kinds of services we can provide to each other's clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in another objective of our collaboration is extending and expanding partnerships. One of the really important pieces of that is getting to know multiple people in an agency. And so a couple of years ago, we created this networking redesign program. So Laurie and I and Dee Hill from Department of Social Services and Jamie Heath from the Mideast Commission, along with some help from Laurie's staff, we were able to actually put on an in-person event with about 60 people from about 23 different agencies across Pitt County. And through this, there were a lot of people in this room that did not know each other before this day. And what we did was like a little scavenger hunt with them. You'll see the picture in the corner. They were using an iPad to do a QR code, and they had some fun props. And it really required them to interact in a way that they may not have done before, which we know that builds a rapport. And when you have a rapport with someone, it's a whole lot easier to pick up the phone and call them and say, how can you help my customer or my student or my client? So it was really a huge success. In the weeks after that, Laurie and I got lots of emails. When can we do this again? When can we do this again? Well, it's a pretty big undertaking to put on something like this. So we started planning it for this year. In the middle of our planning, COVID hit. And so we weren't actually able to do another in-person event. However, we were very lucky that the Rivers East Workforce Board has this virtual career fair platform. And they allowed us to use this. We used it for 4 hours one day. We did have less agencies this time, but they were very excited to be able to learn more about each other, so they could build booths within this platform so you could go in and learn all about the agency. And then we created sort of a bingo game so that they would ask each other questions, and again, building that rapport and doing some live chat and getting to know each other. And that's something that we want to continue as time goes on, because even though networking is sort of that bottom level of the collaboration pyramid, it's really important, and it's where everything starts. It's the foundation for everything. So we hope to be able to continue this in future years.
As a result of the networking, one of the big issues that we are very sensitive to in transitional studies is the need for our students to have experiences and to expand their reach of knowledge of what's available, what kinds of jobs are available. So getting involved in career fairs and getting involved in field trips and experience-based learning, that kind of thing, was a big push for us. So having these connections gave us the opportunity to bring in guest speakers, to have to conduct career fairs. Transitional studies had not in the past been part of the college career fairs, and we really weren't looking at connecting in that way until we started our small groups and getting connected and finding out, well, this is a service that's available. Can my students take part? This is a service that is available. Do my clients qualify for this service? So just having that interaction opened up the door for our students and our clients to get many, many more opportunities and much more exposure to what was available in our community.
Yeah, and another great example of this expansion was you see this flyer for the virtual career and community resource fair. Because we had used their virtual career fair platform for our networking events, they had all of these booths already built from these different community agencies. So the workforce board in their next job fair included a community resources fair. And we all know when people are looking for jobs, they often need other resources as well. So being able to find all of that in one location not only expanded the connections for the people in the agencies, but for the job seekers and the students themselves. So braiding and sharing resources is another objective of our collaboration.
And I've already shared with you how we got to take advantage of the EdTAP funds, the Elderly and Disabled Adult Transportation Assistance Program. WIOA allows funding for transportation. However, we're limited if we're using it for transportation, then we're limited in the amount of other services that we can provide. So by connecting with the Pitt Area Transit System and being able to provide that transportation assistance, our money was stretched. We got to braid those resources. They were, PATS was providing a service that they needed to provide and that they are funded to provide, and we were able to take advantage of it, and that freed up funding in another area for us to do other opportunities for our clients. As a result of these interconnections and interactions and serving on the different community agencies and boards and that kind of thing, we also made connections with Weyerhaeuser. And Weyerhaeuser was another company in our area that was looking to find ways to serve the community, similar to what Vidant has been doing as well. And as a result of that, they offered community grants, which we were able to take advantage of, so that our students that are in transitional studies working on high school equivalency or improving their literacy could also then enroll concurrently in training programs at Pitt Community College, in welding, in industrial systems tech, in construction, so that now we're getting the bang of more than one buck, right? So we're able to help our students extend their education and their training and getting resources to help promote that. So that's been one of the wonderful outcomes of these collaborations, braiding and sharing resources. And it's not just money. What we're finding is that there are other agencies that have to help people with tutoring, with instruction. There are agencies that have to help people with housing. And what we've learned now is that by having these collaborations and these connections with each other, we can pick up the phone, we can send an email. I have a client who needs to get his GED, or I have a client who needs housing. And we're collaborating now and providing these services so the students aren't being stretched all over the place. We're using our network to stretch out what's available to help them get to that next level.
Which is great because most of our agencies have issues with not having a ton of time or resources to do these things with.
Absolutely.
So the last objective we want to share with you is filling in the gaps. You know, once you have, looked at sharing the knowledge and expanding the partnerships, you realize where there are some gaps that need to be filled in. So we want to share a couple examples with you for that. So one of them is guidance and direction for job seekers. This is something that we came together with Pitt Community College, with the Workforce Board, with the Department of Public Instruction, with Boys and Girls Clubs. And the idea behind it was that we need more career awareness, not just in our schools, high schools and community colleges, but in our career centers, in our after-school centers. We need to talk more about career awareness. So what we did was develop these lesson plans, and they're not lesson plans that an educator might put together necessarily. We made them a little easier to follow. So they're like step by step with the standards attached to them so teachers can use them, and also handouts. And we've been able to share this with people all across the state. And actually, you guys can use it too. So if you download our resource guide, you'll see a link to the 10 lesson plans that we currently have online that you're actually able to go and download yourselves. We are in the middle of an expansion for this. So we have about 15 more lesson plans that we'll be able to share by probably the end of the year. And so this has been a great collaboration, and we've even added more partners as we've been doing the expansion. So we've got people from Department of Social Services, Juvenile Justice, some of our contractors for workforce boards, and just been able to kind of pull all those people together for this one shared goal to fill a gap that we saw and didn't have an answer for.
We also were finding that a lot of, even though across this country, dropout incidence, the dropout rate has gone down, we still have a lot of people who have dropped out of high school. And whether they've done it recently or whether it's been many years, oftentimes they don't know where to turn to improve their lot in life. One of the things I do want to share is we came up with this resource, but we weren't trying to encourage students to drop out of high school. So our very first statement is, if you're still in school, we want you to stay in school and get connected to your career counselors and your guidance counselors to talk about other options. But once they've made the decision, or if they had no choice, and they come out of the high school without a high school diploma, and in most cases very little other training for employment, what do they do? So we came up with this brochure. It is a collaborative effort. NC Work Center, Next Gen, the NENC Pathways, the Pitt Community College Transitional Studies Department, high schools in our local area all came together and said, here's what you can do, and here are the contacts that you can make to help you take another step towards gaining gainful employment, getting a good job, not just a job, but one that pays well and will support a family. So we've been working on this, and we're very, very proud of it. We include in the brochure one of our success stories, one of our students who took advantage of this system and was able to get scholarships. He actually works in a great job today as a result of getting connected to several of the different agencies that we are featuring in this brochure.
Yeah, and we actually have just gotten this brochure back from the printer. And so our plan is, though, we have shared this template already with other local areas, because, again, this is a gap that we see, and we know it's not just in Pitt County. It's really across the Northeast and probably the state and the country. So we're excited to be able to have this option for people who are making those choices. And so we hope that we've been able to explain to you how all of this is connected, and the importance of maintaining that networking and reaching towards true collaboration, because that's when it really gets good.
I want to share, I forgot to say this, but earlier, one of the other collaborations that has, or partnerships that's resulted from this effort, is in working with our justice involved population. We have a program now with our sheriff's department. We have a program with juvenile detention center. We have a program actually with a couple of private agencies that are serving the reentry population. That all came about because we were reaching out and finding ways to serve the populations that need us the most. And so I just want to let you see that this is something that works. We're still reaching out, we're still learning, we're still overlapping all of these objectives, but it really has made for a lot of new opportunities for the people that we serve, and that's the most important part.
Absolutely. And I don't think it ever ends, right? We're going to continue to share the knowledge and extend and expand those partnerships, and look for ways to reduce the duplicated effort and braid and share the resources. And we're always going to be looking for those gaps to fill. So we wanted to leave you guys with just some benefits of collaboration. You know, we've talked a little bit about the benefits to us personally through this, but we know that there are benefits for anybody as they work towards collaboration. One of the benefits for you guys today, just in learning about this, is the access to the gadge, which I told you about, but I forgot to tell you. Also on that resource sheet, there is, if you are interested in doing a network and redesigned event, there's a link to that, a DIY for that with all of the templates that we used and everything. Because again, we don't want to keep all this stuff to ourselves. We want you to be able to use it so that you can build the same types of relationships and partnerships that we've been able to build even in challenging times and through the pandemic. So I think that's what we had for you today.
If there are any questions, we'll be happy to take some.
Okay, hold on. I'm here.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a lovely comment here. Shonda says, love the idea of getting not just a job, but a good paying job to support a family. I'd love to hear more. Unfortunately, she couldn't stay. Meeting that can't be moved. Can't wait to get the resource link. God bless you too.
Thank you.
You know, I agree. I know this started, and correct me if I'm wrong now. This apparently started with, you know, jobs, careers, career pathways, and so forth. But this seems like a model for, you know, hyper accelerating a school's integration with the community.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, in a wide variety of ways.
And I think what it also is important to note is that it's such a different, it's a variety of agencies. We're not all educators. We're not all employers. We're not all social service personnel. We're together doing this whole big service to our community, and it really has made a huge difference. We're not there yet, certainly not there yet, but because of this collaboration, I just get really excited. I think if you remember when Brandy was reading the definition of collaboration and what's all involved, that innovation, that creativity, when you put a lot of these heads together who are looking at a problem from different perspectives, then it opens up a lot more creativity and innovation to meet the needs of the people that we're serving. Absolutely.
That sentiment was from the Metropolitan Community College apprenticeship program. You know, you folks, you started with kind of a partnership and you built on that, correct?
Absolutely.
And we started as a transitional studies department. One of the things when Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act was passed in 2014, one of the components of that act stated that any provider has to have partnerships with the community. Well, we just wanted it to be really, we didn't want this to be something that we were doing because it's a check mark on the box. Okay, we have an advisory board. We wanted it to be vibrant and active and effective. And so we designed it that way. We designed it to be something that we met regularly. We don't just have it once a year. We meet every month. Again, nobody on the board thinks they have to be there every month, although many are. And the reason is because we've gotten to know each other. We've learned how we can help each other, and it saves us a lot of time and effort. If I'm not trying to help you get the job skills, and I can give that to the Next Gen program, and then I can focus on the academic skills in the context of those job skills, then we're promoting the goal faster and better. At Pitt Community College, our slogan is, we want to accelerate your future. And so we, as Transitional Studies Department, bought into that total concept and said, what are some ways that we can help our students gain the resources that they need to be successful, not just academically,
Yeah.
but in their employment, in their training, in their career goals.
And career pathways actually started around the same time
Mhm.
and for many of the same reasons. I mean,
Mhm.
we're WIOA funded and focused.
Yeah.
And it just happened that Laurie and I connected between Career Pathways Partnership meetings and the meetings that she was holding at Pitt Community College. And we just understood that we both had the need to create these networks and to build these collaborations.
And the people that work with us see that as well. It's
Yeah.
not just the two of us.
No.
I'm going to step outside the bounds just a little bit. There's a member of our board of directors in your audience right now, and he's real positive, real high on what he's heard today. I'm going to see if I can allow him to actually talk to you. I'm not sure I was able to. Donna, you there?
Hey, Ed, I'm here.
Ah,
Hi.
can you guys hear him?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Don, we can hear you.
great. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate the opportunity. I think your presentation was fantastic, and there are some of the members of my team that are joining this and other sessions this week. But I am looking forward to sharing your presentation with all of the team. We are here in Austin, Texas. We are looking at how to build a strong learning culture across our whole region. And of course, the community college has a role to play in that, but we're not the entirety of the picture, right? And that concept of braiding partnerships and braiding resources is, I think, a fundamental and important piece of building a culture of learning here in the Central Texas region. And I think, we've been talking about braided pathways. We've been, that's the term we've been using for integrated work and education and informal and formal experiences that help people move toward greater, better positions in the workforce and everything else. But I think your idea of braiding resources and braiding partnerships is going to be a real key in helping us achieve that goal of creating a learning community across the Central Texas region. So thank you for spending the time with us today and introducing us to that idea. I think it's fantastic.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are so many things that we wouldn't be able to do if we couldn't take advantage of those resources. The choices brochure, for example, Pitt Community College put it together, and then we found funding through the Workforce Board to print it. So, we're just always trying to find ways that we can work together and lighten the load on any one group.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. As a community college, we're our lane is primarily education and training programs, right? Mm-hmm. And there are other things that we can rely on our partners to do, and so we can play our part, they can play their part, and the whole is much greater than the individual institutions and partners.
We serve so many students that have so many other barriers to their training, to that education, that we, if we're trying to do this all by ourselves, we don't even know where to turn. And that was the case when I first started in this business quite a long time ago. But now that we have these partnerships, I have a student that comes to me and needs transportation. I know whom to contact. I have a student who is in a bad housing situation, and he doesn't need to live there. It's really interfering with his ability to pursue his education. So I knew who to call to try to find him alternate living accommodations, and they were able to provide that. Was DSS said, I'm the one that does that. And the reason why I knew him is because he was coming to our workforce, our WIOA advisory board meetings. So those kinds of things are what make this so beautiful. And it's one student at a time sometimes, but it's still helping them overcome those barriers. Child care is a big, big issue for us. Food hunger is an issue for us, and just having the connections to other agencies and other services that help provide those services that will help our students, or a client needs his GED. Well, now I don't have to, as a DSS person, I know I can call Laurie, and Laurie's going to help get that student enrolled to get their GED. So it's really exciting, and the prospect, I think, is even greater, but for us to be more effective as we continue.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I also think that your idea of establishing multiple relationships with your partners, whether it be at the executive level, it be at the frontline level, it be at all levels of your partner organization and across the organization, is extremely important. It's great to have, one relationship at the executive level. But if you have 10 relationships at all of the different levels and the frontline levels, I think that is a hugely important aspect, to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone that you're engaged with and connected with on a continuous basis and say, hey, I've got an individual transitioning back to the community from prison. And that person, this specific person, their problem, everybody that we work with, all of our students have different needs, right? And some may be perfectly fine with housing. Some may be perfectly fine with transportation, but they need help with childcare, or they're food insecure and they need some support there, and they may need some housing support. So having those one-on-one contacts and saying, hey, I've got this person who's transitioning. Can you meet them when they walk in the door? And that warm handoff to your service agency partner is hugely important. Whether it's a traditional student or a non-traditional student, it's hugely important, rather than just simply handing them a phone number from the phone book and say, hey, you could call the housing department, right?
Yes.
Go talk to this particular person. I've talked to them. They know you're coming. They're expecting you. That is a huge benefit.
That's what we do. I do have to say too, when we were designing the networking redesign, when we wanted to do that first event, one of the things we considered was we didn't want just one person from each agency. We wanted a team, and that really did make a difference. It really did.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you have people that are they turn over, they're not there anymore. So if you've only made that one connection with the agency and that person has moved on to a different role somewhere else, then you're out of luck. So making those multiple connections, we feel like is just a way to keep it going.
In the academic world, those of us who are in adult and continuing education, we're fond of doing what we call appreciative inquiry, where we identify the assets that exist in the community and build on those assets, right? Build on what it sort of follows from some of the things that we were hearing in the previous session about building on what you have, right? And so as you guys are identifying gaps in the community and things like that, I would very much like to hear if you have a story or two, a little bit more about how you're identifying those gaps in the community. What tells you that that's a gap? I mean, there's some big things. We don't have somebody that can help with housing, or we don't have somebody that can help with food. But how are you identifying those gaps, and then strategically going about building relationships with others, whether it's a church or a community-based or non-profit organization? How are you identifying those gaps and those partners that fill those gaps? Because that's important too.
Yeah. One of the big things that we're doing is, it's not just what we sponsor as groups, but we're also involved in other groups and agencies. I'm on quite a few committees and boards I do that on purpose
Mhm.
because that gets people to know what our program does, and it gets me connected with other agencies and other programs. So it's that webbing and networking and reaching out so that you're not just trying to keep that silo going.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. When I served on a reentry board,
Mm.
and so that opened up my eyes to a need in our community that our program can help serve, because education for that population was a crucial component. Um, we I think what maybe because we convey ourselves as a part of the community and make sure that people know who we are and what we do and what services we provide, then there's more outreach so that others can get connected. I do think our networking event made a huge difference, because one of the comments that we received over and over and over again was, I didn't know. I didn't know this service was available. I didn't know this service. So when you're interacting with your clients, with your participants, and you're finding out their needs, and you don't know where to send them and how to help them, then it stops right there. But by having the networking going on, we're able to reach out and find the places where those gaps are. I hope that makes sense.
And to give you an example that we use the guidance and direction for job seekers, the lesson plans, the way that came about was multiple conversations, but private one-on-one conversations, but I kept hearing the same thing over and over. We don't have any way of sharing this information about career awareness and career development with our students or with our clients or with our customers. And so we sort of handpicked a small group of people from different agencies and brought them together. And our first session was really just sitting there talking about, do we need to do this? Is there already something out there? Because we certainly don't want to reinvent the wheel if it's already there. But what we were able to find wasn't accessible for everyone. It wasn't easy to read, and we needed it to be that anybody could follow the lesson plan. And so that was how we were able to connect with that. And it took us probably a year to get from that beginning conversation to the original end product. But just recognizing when you're having these conversations and you're hearing multiple people say the same thing, pulling those people together and saying, okay, now what can we do about it? How can we fill in this gap now?
I think that's fantastic. How have you guys gone about cataloging those resources and contacts and things like that? Because, you know, obviously all of that network moves beyond just you guys, just like it moves beyond me, and it becomes, you know, integrated into your broader teams that you're working with and things like that. And so how do you catalog and maintain that catalog? I'll use that term, catalog.
Okay, well, our advisory board has a Google document that we are constantly updating and sharing. And so that's one, and that includes contact people, phone numbers, emails, agencies, services that are provided. And that's one document. It's a living document. It stays up. We constantly remind our participants, our members to look at it and keep it updated. We use Aunt Bertha. I don't know if you're familiar with AuntBertha.com. It's a national repository. We're sharing our contact list with other agencies that are trying to pull together an even wider, broader contact list and a list of services and that kind of thing. Doing that with NC Work Center, with our local one-stop centers. I know that's not the same NC Work, but we are trying to do that. Brandy does a lot of that on her website, which is the NENC Careers pathways.org. I want to say career pathways, but that she keeps up with that. We do a newsletter. We do emails with the minutes to all of our meetings. It's constant.
Yeah, and when we have events like Networking Redesigned, one of the things that we make sure that we do is have a contact list that every participant receives so that they can reconnect with the people that they met or build a rapport with at those events.
I think that idea of the living document is actually right on point. One of the things that we have found with resource guides from some of our agency partners is that those contacts in those agencies may or may not still be doing what they do. The contact information may be old. And so on our side with our reentry population, one of the things that we're doing is we want that warm handoff. So if we have a resource guide, we're going into it and identifying someone and contacting them and ensuring that the contact information is correct and up to date and all of those other things. And so I think that's important. And we've talked about how to create a live, always up to date resource guide, and that's really that Google Sheet or other collaborative document that you have, cloud-based document that you can share with everybody, right? Yep. That's fantastic. Yes.
And access from anywhere. That's the best part. I can be somewhere not near my computer and I can pull that up with my phone if I need to give somebody that information.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you guys very much for all that you've presented to us today. And like I said, I'm excited about sharing this with the rest of the team that could be on the call with us right now, because I think this is a really important part of us achieving our goal of creating a broader learning community. And that involves all of the resources beyond education and training programming that we provide. Yeah. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you for your questions.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Sure.
You know, it does not surprise me at all that Don Tracy responded the way he does. If you know Don and some of the things that he's done and is doing in Austin. But the more I listen to this, and this was very inspirational, believe it or not, this is something that I would want, you know, more of our schools to be able to do. If there were a template, a model, a way to make it easy to pass, well, I shouldn't say easy, but to make it doable, to pass this on to other schools. We have, and some of the things, we're going to be talking about this later on at the end when we talk about the new NCCET, that'll be session 12. This year we've created a whole new level of NCCET members. So we now have a lot more members, all right, a lot. And what I'd really like to be able to do is follow this up with you so we can find a way to be able to share more and more of this insight, because it is just that inspirational. It is just the kind of thing that I think a lot of schools would do if they understood that, you know, just how doable it really, really is. Okay, so I'm telling, I loved it when I first heard it, and when we went through it initially, and it's that much more inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm talking to our audience now. As we have mentioned, if you've attended the other sessions, sessions like this that have something genuine and valuable to convey, we don't expect you to walk away from this remembering everything. In addition to the broadcast, we will be putting a recorded version of this on our website at nccet.org. And there will be a downloadable session 3 Pathfinder playbook, all right, that will provide you with contact, that will provide you with the model. They did a great job in putting it together. It'll show you the model, okay? And it'll have contact information so that you could follow up with our guests and our panelists here today. And don't be surprised if you hear me talking about something like this, that, you know, we've begged and pleaded and been able to get Pitt Community College and the any North Carolina career
I know, it's
Pathways.
pathways.
I'm glad I'm not.
I should remember that.
And I've known her for years.
Okay. So thank you so much. This was a phenomenal session. Thank you, thank you, thank you.